The US has called on the World Health Organization to ensure transparency during the next phase of investigations into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic. This comes as a series of media reports in the US suggest there's growing evidence the virus emerged from a laboratory in Wuhan rather than from animals. China has completely rejected the theory, and last month the WHO said it was unlikely. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Jamie Metzl, who served in President Obama's National Security Council, is also a member of the World Health Organization's Expert Advisory Committee. Very good to have you with us, Jamie. What's prompted these new suggestions, or I suppose the resurfacing of these suggestions that the virus may have come from a Wuhan laboratory?
Well, we're more than almost a year and a half from the outbreak, and there's almost no evidence that the pandemic began with an zoonotic jump in the wild. But there is increasingly strong circumstantial evidence suggesting the very real possibility that the pandemic stems from an accidental lab leak. And as this circumstantial evidence grows, you mentioned what you called a WHO investigation. I think your viewers would be shocked to learn there has been no WHO investigation. As a matter of fact, there is no, to date, international investigation into the origins of the pandemic. And from day one, China has been engaged in a massive cover-up. And I think the rest of the world is making a statement, enough is enough, as the evidence for the lab leak hypothesis grows. And we all are and should be demanding the kind of full investigation of all origin hypotheses that's required.
Jamie, you say there's been no WHO investigation. We're actually seeing the pictures of the time that WHO investigators went to Wuhan to try and establish this. And I remember my colleagues were trying to sort of shout to get questions across, and they were prevented from doing so. So in what sense was that not an investigation?
So it was both not the WHO and it wasn't an investigation. The entity that you're referring to was an independent committee partly organized by the WHO in conjunction with their Chinese counterparts. And actually, Tedros Adhanom, the WHO Director General, has made abundantly clear in his statements, he keeps saying this is not the WHO, and yet media around the world are reporting this as the WHO incorrectly. It wasn't an investigation. Peter Ben-Mbarek, the head of this international committee engaged in this joint study, has been completely clear this is not an investigation. They didn't have the mandate, they didn't have the skills, they didn't have the access. There was this international group. They went on a 2-week, highly chaperoned, controlled study visit to Wuhan, and really didn't have any ability to draw the conclusions, which they did say correctly. This group did say that the animal origin was likely and lab incident was unlikely. But then Tedros immediately rejected that claim in what is probably the first time that's ever happened in the history of the World Health Organization.
So if there were very limited means of access actually to that initial group that went to investigate, what hope is there of a full and transparent and cooperative scenario for another investigation to take place to actually establish where the virus came from?
So first, we need to establish that that's what's required. And the World Health Assembly is meeting now. Representatives of governments are meeting, and that the WHA, the World Health Assembly, should be demanding the kind of full investigation that's required. Then the question is, will China continue its ongoing cover-up, or will China open up? I certainly hope that China will end its practice. For the last almost year and a half, it's been destroying samples, hiding records, imprisoning citizen journalists. It has a universal gag order preventing scientists from speaking or writing anything about COVID origins without government approval. And it would be great if China were to open up. It's not very likely that that's going to happen. If China still refuses, then the other countries in the world need to come together and do the best investigation we can with the resources that we have. There are a lot of resources that can be accessed from outside of China. Is that as good as having full access in China? Obviously not.
Okay.
But it's better to do that than nothing.
Okay, Jamie, we must leave it there. Jamie Metzl from the World Health Organization's Expert Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Sure.